Hello friends, welcome back to Snowflake tutorial series, and let's talk about the Snowflake copy command. The copy command is a powerful tool that allows you to load data into and out of the Snowflake tables. It is very versatile command and it can be used in many of the scenarios. In this video, I will explain how to use this copy command and will showcase some of the different ways that it can be used. To begin with, let's look at the syntax of copy command first. So as you can see, this is the copy command syntax where if you are loading the data, you have to mention here table name. So copy into table name from whatever file format, whatever file you are loading into the table. And if you are unloading the data into one of the file, that means you are exporting the data. In that case, you have to mention file path here, copy into then stage name and then the path from table name. Now this is another option which we have to provide, that is file format. In most of the case, like if you are working with CSV files, then CSV file format is a default format, right? But if you have some kind of JSON or even in CSV itself, suppose delimiter is different, then how will you do that? So you can definitely provide all the options inline here, as well as there is another way of doing that is you can create that file format separately. So this is the syntax for creating file format, where you will mention, like currently it is HPCSV and field delimiter is pipe, right? But in our case, which I am going to explain some examples where I am using comma, so probably we can use comma as well here, but this is just for demo purpose, so I am not going to use it. I will just use directly type CSV only. I will not change field delimiter, so I will use default formats already. Now this compression is also default gzip. Okay, now so this is file format, right? So in copy command there are other number of different options that can be used. For example, you can use on error option. So what on error option provides, that if your command fails for any one of the column or any one of the row in that file, suppose there are 10 records in a file, right? And out of 10 records, 9 records are successful, but 1 record is failing. And because of that 1 record failing, what you want to do? Are you want to ignore whole files, or you want to copy those 9 records and just give me error for that 1 record? So in that case, you can use on error option, where you can provide continue. In continue case, it will definitely insert 9 records and it will give you in proper format, like in table format, that this one row was failing and other 9 will be inserted. But if you mention abort statement, then in that case what it will do, it will completely remove that copy command. I mean, it will revert everything, so it will not insert a single command, a single record. Okay, so this is what on error does. There are other options, like you can also use override option, so where whether you want to overwrite the existing data or not in Snowflake table. So that is another option. Now there is another option, as you can see, is match by column name. Suppose in most of the case, like CSV, then it is a Parquet format. So those are like those are already table formatted data, right? In that case, if you mention match by column name, then this copy command will understand and it will add the automatic transformation to that file. Suppose in our case we will be using that, so you will be seeing that, no problem right now. So just remember that this options is also available. All right, now let's talk about the scenarios where the copy command can be used. So as I already mentioned, I think, but let me state here again. Okay, first scenario is that loading the data into Snowflake from a variety of different data sources and data formats like CSV, JSON, XML, Parquet, Avro, right? And there are a few other formats are supported. Now these are the file formats, but those files can be read from internal stage and external stage. What is internal stage? Internal stage means you are uploading and storing the data itself in the Snowflake servers. What about external stage? External stage is like just a reference for AWS S3, Google Cloud Storage, or Azure Blob Storage, right? So Snowflake allows us to create a integration between that file system to here. So you can read any file from that file system. Like if you have users.csv file available in AWS S3 in one of the bucket, and you have already created integration, storage integration here, and you have created external stage, then you will be able to use that file and copy the data from there to here in any table, right? So that is one way. Then unloading or exporting data from Snowflake to a variety of different data formats. So again, same thing. Instead of writing into the table and reading from the table file, here we will be doing reverse. We will be reading the data from table and writing into the stage file. Again, there it can be internal stage and external stage. We will have separate video on external stage and what is external volume, external location. For now, we can understand loading and unloading using internal stage files as they work exactly the same way. So there is no difference. Alright. So we will do that way. Now let's take all the examples one by one. So first example I will take is like, let's load a CSV file into Snowflake table. But as you can see here, right now we do not have any database. So we have to create some resources first. So I'll create that resource. Like, let me copy some commands and I'm just removing this, or instead let me go here. Okay. So I'll create load unload database. And once I do that, this will automatically select the database and the schema as well. So as we haven't created any new schema, custom schema, then that means public schema is the default schema which is selected. Now if I create this table, that table will be created under this public schema. Now if you refresh this, you will be able to see that table available in this public schema. Alright. Now I will create this raw users table. I'll show you something in that table as well. Then there is a stage which we want to use to upload the files and export the files, right? Let me create the stage now. So once the stage is created, I will show you that stage again. Let me go to that. So this is the internal stage, and if you want to see the file format, file directory, and if you go to this database, load unload, public, stages and internal stage. If you see here, if you haven't enabled this directory table, what it says, view files with directory tables. So whatever files are already uploaded in this stage, those will be listed here. Now if I enable it, it will use this warehouse and list down all the files. As you can see, there is no file added as of now because we have just created the stage. Now I am going to upload one file from locally like this. I'm just going to use usv users.csv. Alright. So I'll just upload. So I'll just use another folder called like this, users. And yeah, as you can see, the file is uploaded now, and now we should be able to use that file to load this data into one of the table. And we have just created that one table, right? So let's try and copy the data. All right. So to do that, which is very simple, like as you know, copy into, and first of all we have to mention the table name, and as we have created table name users, we can use that. And from, of course, we have to mention the stage file. So what is the stage name? Internal stage, and comma, it's slash, the file path was users.users.csv. All right. And then if I run this, it should load the data, right? Because it knows the default format is CSV anyways, and we are using CSV file. And this user CSV file contains two columns only. One is name and the second is age. Okay. And because of that, it automatically identifies that there are two columns available and automatically loads the data into table. Okay. So this is how you can load the data. Let me show you how those are loaded. Select star from users, and if you see, you will be able to see all 7 users. All right. Now next scenario and next example I will take about how to export the data from Snowflake table to a JSON file instead of CSV file. Okay, so we will be able to see how we can load the JSON data as well. All right, now to do that, what you will do here, let me copy as it is, or like this. So again, this time we are exporting the data. So in that case, as you know this syntax I explained, right? When you are unloading the data, you have to mention the stage name, comma, file path. All right. So as exactly the same way we have mentioned, but this time you do not need to worry about the file name, because the file name will be automatically populated. But if you want to do that, probably you want to mention some prefix or something like that. So suppose exported or maybe users. Okay, so it will automatically add this users into the file path or file name. Now what is from? So instead of table, what I have done here is I have to create object. Why? Because we are exporting the data in the JSON format, and the copy command doesn't understand by default what to do with this multi-column data, because we have multi-column data. Suppose we have only one column data, and in that column, suppose we are storing only object data, then probably it's fine. But here we already have columnar data. One column was name, second column was age. So I have just written one select query here instead of just directly passing from users. So we have written some transformation logic, and that is doing create an object like it's a object, right? Name is a key and the value is name, age is key and the age is the value. I will show you how this data looks like. Okay, now this select query is mentioned and it will automate, and we have also mentioned the file format, that is type is equal to JSON. Now if I enter this, it should unload the data. As you can see, what are the how many rows are unloaded actually 7, and this is the input byte. 200 byte was used to create this object and writing into this. So return is like 109 bytes. So now file is exported. Now let's look at this directory listing here. If I refresh this, we should have another directory called export. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, export is there. Then I have also added one folder called JSON, and then users.0.0 json.gz, right? So as you see, users was prefix which I added, and because of that the file name is looking like that. Now how can we use this JSON file to load the data again back to the same file, or probably raw users, right? So as we already seen the command, correct, how we can copy the data, but this time I am going to show you another way to copy the data. So as you can see, this is the file, right? And this is the triple dot button which will show you some actions which you can perform on this file. So as you can see, you can copy the path of this file, then you can download, and you can also remove the file from this stage. But I want to load into the table. So if I click on load into table, it will ask you some parameters like select a database. So in our case it is load unload. We have selected a schema called public, in which table we want to load the data. So suppose we want to load the data in raw users, because raw users is the blank table right now. If I hit the next, it will ask me file format. So what is the file format? In this case it is JSON, of course, right? Then we want to strip outer array. No. Why? Because we haven't added yet. So what is that about? Like suppose you have the data, let me explain after a while. Okay, and in our case we want to match by column names. Why? Because in this object, as you know, this is a dictionary, right? So that dictionary contains two keys, name and age, and in our case we have two columns, name and age. And if I mention this, match all the keys with the column names, but it should be case insensitive match. So suppose name is a column name, but in our key, in our data, age is in a smaller letter, right, lowercase, then also it should match the column and load the data accordingly. Now what should happen if an error is encountered while loading a file? If you remember, I also mentioned that on error option. So on error option, if you select this by default, do not load any data. So So if any error happens in even a one row, it will not load a whole file. It will reject whole file. But if you mention this abort statement and continue, but if you select continue, only load valid data from the file. So there are, out of 7 records, if 6 users are correct, then it will load 6 users, but 7th one will be ignored. I'll show you the example of that error one as well. Okay. Then also, if you do this manually and if you want to see how this is going to execute it with the SQL, so it will show you the whole SQL file. So as you can see, copy into and the table name from this path. And this is another way of saying, because suppose you have mentioned JSON, the stage file, stage name, and files is another way, because suppose there are 3 files you want to load at the same time, at one time itself, and all those 3 files are placed in different file structure, different folders, right? Then what you will do here is, like, you have mentioned this comma, then user/users.csv, something like that. All right, so this is helpful. Then here we have also mentioned file format, as we added those options. According to that options, these are all mentioned here. Then match by column name and on error. So now once everything is selected, you just click on load and it will load the data. As you can see, so 7 rows were successfully inserted into the table. All right, now I'll just mark it done, and I'll see using this similar query, but instead of users, I will use raw users. Now as you can see, the data are inserted very good, and I think you can use this JSON file format as well. Okay, now there is another option which you can use with this copy command, that is called validation mode. So this is helpful to validating the files without loading the data. So to do that, you can provide additional parameter. So let me show you. I'm just going to create one temporary table here again, and this time I'm going to create the table with only one column, and that is going to be variant column. Okay, so in this case, when we are trying to load the data into this temporary table, we will not transform, and we will also not mention this match by column name, so it will load the data in JSON format itself. Okay, all right, now let me cut paste here and put it here. All right, now I will create this temporary table, then I will use this copy command. I'll show you what I have done. So as you can see here, in the copy into the same table name, and from I'm using this JSON file. All right, let me see the file path. Okay, it is like this: export JSON and this export JSON, like this. All right, now file format is type is equal to JSON, strip out array false, and now as you can see, this additional parameter, additional option I have provided. So in this, actually you can provide multiple options, multiple values. So first of all, return, and this is actually dynamic, so you can mention 1 2 3 4 5 6 like that. Suppose you want to return, you want to check just a couple of rows, then you can mention return 2 rows. Suppose you want to check 10 rows, then you can mention 10 rows. All right, now if I enter this, it will give me all those 10 rows. So actually it has 7 rows only, so it gave me 7 rows. Actually it has not inserted at all. If you see the data here, select start from temp users p, if you'll see, this is still blank, right? Because it is running in validation mode and you are just checking 10 rows. Suppose if I mention 1, it will give me only 1 row, like this. And there is another option you can mention, like return errors and return all errors, like return errors. So there is no error available in this file, and because of that it is not showing any error. But I have one file which has some error, so I will upload that file and we will see. Okay, so let me go to the stage and I'll just go to users. I'll upload that failing file, so I'll be able to show that. So users failed.csv. Okay, now that file is uploaded, let me go to this worksheet and Okay, now as we have uploaded the file, let me use another copy command like raw users, copy into raw users from. Actually, I just dropped the raw users table and created again because it has an issue, like it is varchar, right? So age is generally number, so I changed it to number, and in this failed CSV few data are wrong. Let me show you that. So how can we check? First, like select $2 from the same file path I can give like this and enter. So it will give me what is available in the second column. So that is all our number except this 8th row has markup as a string. So generally if I try to copy the data from that file into this raw users, which has name is a varchar, age is a number, right? And because of that this will fail at the number of 8 row. Now if I use this validation mode and if I ask return errors, it will give me that numeric value markup is not recognized, and this is the file path. All right, so this is how it works. So suppose return 2 rows. So as you can see, again the same error give me because we are trying to get the rows but it has an issue. But instead if you have used return errors, that copy command understands that it is asking me give all the errors, so it is giving me all the errors in nice format, right? So you can use it to check all the validation before actually loading the data. Now actually I wanted to show you that on error, right? So this is on error. If I mention abort statement, right, and it will not load the data. It will give you, if you would like to continue loading when an error is encountered, use other values such as skip file or continue. So yeah, there is another value you can provide, skip file. Why? Because as you know, you can also mention files. Stage is a from, instead of you can provide this from and this file as a file paths or files. Okay, and let me show you that. Here if I use this and like this files, and here I can provide like this, it will give me the same exact response, correct? But if I use skip file, this is skip this file because in this file there is an error. But suppose you have mentioned multiple files here like file 1, file 2, file 3, and file 2 has an error, then file 2 will be skipped and file 1 and file 3 will be loaded. In the case of continue, let me use continue so you can understand. And if I use continue, it will load 7 rows out of 8 and 1 error was seen, so 1 was not loaded. So that is how you can use continue command. All right, so this is how you can use validation mode, then on error option in the copy. So yeah, that's pretty much. I think you understand that it is a must know command for any Snowflake user. I hope you have got enough information for kickstarting for complex scenarios. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Please hit the like button so this video can reach a larger audience. Thanks for watching and see you soon in the next one.